Hi, welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Tuesday, January 25th. It's time for our weekly college basketball edition. And on Tuesdays, Monday or Tuesdays, it matters on the schedule here. I'm going to be joined by Doug Upstone of DocSports.com for some college basketball free picks and some thoughts on the college basketball betting world. And Doug, we've gone 6-0. with our last 6 college basketball free picks on his channel.
Yeah, that's we'll take that every time, Ross. I think, right? I think we're pretty good with that. Yeah, we don't mind talking about that. And,
no, not at all. I mean,
go ahead.
And the big thing is, Doug, is people can't question our record because it's all right there and archived and timestamped.
Yep. Yeah. So we're all good with that, and hey, we're going to try and keep that streak going. But yeah, the college basketball season continues to evolve, Ross. And I know you had some thoughts, particularly about the new number 1 team in college basketball.
Yeah, the Auburn Tigers, for the first time in program history, are ranked number 1 in the country, coming off that big statement win against Kentucky. That took on special meaning, Doug, because Kentucky has dominated the SEC for so long. And this was Auburn's statement game because this isn't an off year for Kentucky. They're number 12 in the country. And, they fell behind early, and they showed me a lot coming back late in that game, much to my chagrin, because I was on Kentucky plus 3.5 on Saturday. But they showed a lot of moxie in coming back and winning the game by 9. My question to you is, how do you think they'll fare now that they're the number 1 team in the country? And that's not always something you want to have around this time of year because it seems to be a jinx in recent seasons.
Yeah, from the standpoint, there's no reason that they should be lax because they have NBA quality players, on the team. They play tremendous defense. They can just lock you down for periods of a time. And the other thing that I like about what they've done, and I don't know if we've talked about this before, I have my reasons, but I'm not a Bruce Pearl fan in terms of his person. But as a basketball coach, he's a tremendous basketball coach.
Tremendous recruiter too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. And so he's the real deal from that standpoint. But the thing that I like about what they do is, and this is true, you see of let's say a lot of, let's just say, high quality teams, is that they don't have the real long offensive lulls. So when you're watching a game, either you notice it yourself or the announcers make it known to you, the other team has gone on a 10-0 run. Okay. Yeah. They don't have those, it might be 8-3, 10-5, something like that, but they're just not depressed for long periods of time offensively. And when you can do that, and then when it's your turn, or when you make it your turn to have the run, and then you go 8-0, then you're back in the lead. From that standpoint. So to me, that's the most distinguished quality of this team that I've seen so far, and the best team I've seen at that.
Yeah, very consistent. And, that goes hand in hand with what you alluded to, how good they are defensively. That's a major reason why other teams can't go on those 8-10 0 runs against Auburn. So very good points, Doug. Doug, I got a couple teams to keep an eye on. Just curious to hear your thoughts. These are teams that have been coming on of late, not necessarily ranked teams, but teams that have been covering, winning, and have been vastly improved since the season began. Marquette, all of a sudden, coming on like gangbusters. UConn, who fell out of the top 25, back in there. And remember, we're talking about that Auburn team that's number 1 in the country. The only team that's defeated Auburn this year was UConn in triple overtime. Florida State, pair of 1-point wins over Miami of Florida. Leonard Hamilton's club, a young club at that, is really starting to improve and come on. TCU is a underrated team, I think, in the Big 12, Doug. And Miami of Florida, 10-2 in their last 12 games, and their only losses to Florida State, and each time by 1 point. And they showed me a lot, even in their last loss at home against Florida State on Saturday, Doug, coming from 24 down at the half to only lose that game by 1. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing there with any of those teams that you mentioned that I could disagree with you. I mean, Shaka Smart, I think it probably was just the lights were maybe it's not. I'm not saying he's not a big time coach, but they were just a little too bright and maybe just a little bit too much pressure in Texas, and
Yeah.
so being able to back away from that and to, let's just say, maybe even recruit more of the types of players that fit his style of play more so than, let's just say, essentially even more talented players that he would have at Texas. So in other words, he's got his players listening to him. Maybe that's what I'm really trying to say. And so yeah, and they've turned it around because they started out great. Okay, they're playing again, just their man-to-man defense is just lights out. I mean, it's really intense. And then then they had that lull, okay, where they didn't score much, and now they're back to the offenses bounce back, and now their
Yeah.
defense is still playing tremendously. So yeah, so very impressive team. UConn, as you mentioned, I'm actually a big fan of Bobby Hurley. Okay, I think he does a real not. I'm sorry, Danny Hurley. Sorry, Danny Hurley. I'm a big fan of his. His teams always come to play, and the thing that they had, when they mentioned they fell out of the top 25, and what they're been able to do is they've got back to what they do best, and what they do best is rebound and go. Okay,
Yeah.
and so they create mismatches and transition, and so that's really their key. They're getting a slower pace now playing in the Big East, but still they're still taking advantage of what they do best. From that standpoint, you mentioned, I'm sorry, TCU.
Yeah.
TCU looks good. I'm just not a Jamie Dixon guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Saw him at Pitt, and they have this tendency, to back them going forward. They've always had this tendency when it got to February to start to fade. Okay. Became a 500 club basically by record. So I'm not big there. And the other team was
Florida State and Miami.
Florida State. Oh, yes, definitely. Leonard Hamilton, deep team always. But this year, though, as you mentioned, younger than in prior years. And I saw them with their losses in December. They did not look connected at all. This group now looks very much connected. They almost blew it against Miami,
Yeah.
the other day. But still, I like how they're playing. And I like that, they're getting the mixture of players with the depth is starting to take advantage. And what they're doing, they didn't do early in the season. They're starting to rebound like some of those teams always do.
Yeah. In Miami of Florida, with Jim Larinaga. I think they're a team to watch in the ACC. It's not like we're talking about a strong ACC this year, Doug. You got Duke basically as the team to beat, obviously, and I think it's a crapshoot after Duke in that conference. So we'll see a couple of mid majors, Doug, and I know you love talking about mid majors, as I recall. Anyway, Colorado State. 15-1, yet they're not in the top 25. They were at one particular moment. They got blown out by San Diego State a couple weeks back by 30, and they fell out of the top 25. So keep an eye on them, because I think that's a team that's going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder going forward. And then Murray State, you mentioned them last week. Lo and behold, 18-2, and like Doug said last week, what a great defensive team. And Murray State, when they have those good teams like Doug touched upon, it's usually starts with their tremendous defensive play. And then the other one, Davidson. How about, everybody was lauding St. Bonaventure to start the year in the A-10. As a matter of fact, St. Bonnie was ranked number 16 in the AP preseason poll, but now it's Davidson that's emerged out of that conference, 16-2 with some quality wins, namely one versus Alabama I could think of, and a couple others that escape me right now. But your thoughts on mid-majors, Doug?
Yeah, I've seen Colorado State twice, and the thing that impresses me about them is that they have the ability to shoot the ball, and wouldn't call them a great defensive team, but they're a solid defensive team. And so what they try and do is to try and keep people out of the paint. They do a good enough job on the perimeter, but offensively, there's a nice flow to the team. And like Seth Greenberg of ESPN talks a lot about connectivity. And that's what you see with this team. They seem to enjoy playing with one another.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what they have going for them best. They're not even close. If you go by athletic ability, I would say at best they're middle of the road, even in the Mountain West. But it's a nice team, for sure
Yeah.
on that. And Davidson, I tell you what, you watch him every year. You wonder from time to time what's going to happen there, and a lot of people forget that's where Seth Curry went to
Yeah.
school. I'm sorry, not Steph Curry, and that's where he went to school. And you know what? Bob,
Bob McKillop.
Bob McKillop's outstanding coach, and when he gets just a little bit more athleticism, he can play. His teams play enough defense, and they always have enough shooting, Ross, as we both know.
All I know about Bob McKillop, he had gray hair 35 years ago, and he still got gray hair, and he hasn't lost any of it, Doug. Good for him. One other final thought too. The SEC, the Big 12 and Big 10, a lot of love this year. Of course, they got several teams apiece in the top 25. But, the Big East ain't too bad. They got 4 teams in the top 25, Doug. Although I can tell you one thing, a team I'm looking where they're not going to be able to keep up the pace they're at, in my opinion, is Providence. I'm going to be looking to fade them in coming weeks. Anyway, any final thoughts before we get to our free pick?
Well, I just have a quick question for you. Now, you mentioned about the ACC being down, and I have I don't know this for a fact at all, but a theory. And we've seen the ascension of the SEC. Now, SEC always had, some pretty good teams over the years. It was Kentucky, and then you'd find 2 or 3, but it was fairly frequent over the years that they would send maybe 3 teams to the Sweet 16, even though we wouldn't know much about them. It seems to me now, and again, I don't know, I haven't read anything on this. It seems to be they're getting the players that used to go to the ACC themselves now. Okay. And so whether it's the regional recruiting, I'm not really sure. I don't follow recruiting stuff that much, but that just seems to be, those are the correlation. The SEC's gone up and the ACC's gone down. Okay.
Yeah. The ACC, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off, no. But the ACC, if Duke and North Carolina aren't going in the top 10, like they've been in recent years, they lost their luster, is what I'm trying to say. You only got Duke. North Carolina's been on again, off again. They come back with a win last night against Virginia Tech. The 2 games before that, they got blown out by 20-something points on the road on each occasion. Wake Forest is coming on a little bit, but top to bottom, we used to be talking about the ACC going 8-9 deep in the NCAA tournament. I say they're lucky they get 4 to 5 teams this year. So where the SEC, that's where the changes come the most, is you're going to see now a plethora of teams out of the SEC getting there, as opposed to maybe 3, 4, tops 5 in the ACC. I think 5 would be a stretch, Doug. Anyway, how about your free pick for Wednesday the 26th?
For the 26th, and you mentioned the Big 10, so that's exactly where I'm going.
Yep.
The Northwestern Wildcats are making a trip to Ann Arbor to take on the Wolverines. Now, maybe, just maybe, Michigan has turned a corner in winning their last 2 games after dropping 3 straight. This team was I believe, top 5 coming into in the preseason. They have been anything but all season long. More youth has come about. I mentioned the word connectivity. They seem very disorganized, for most of the season. But with blowouts of Maryland and Indiana, and the Indiana one in particular, ones that grabs my attention, that was on the road. Now, Indiana was coming off a big game against Purdue, which in the upset, stormed the floor, all that other stuff. But, even that being the case, Indiana was undefeated at home going into this game against Michigan, and Michigan whipped them 80-62. So they've shot the ball really well in those last 2 games. They've shot over 56% in both last 2 games. Now, is there going to be regression? Of course there is. Okay. And it's likely to happen in this game, but still, as a team, Ross, they're shooting 47% from the field. So I think with their confidence soaring, I think that's a pretty good situation to be in. Now, Northwestern, they're not a bad team under Chris Collins. Okay. But the Big Ten's a tough conference. Okay. And if you don't have the athletes, which Northwestern, for the most part, is not and cannot get, partly because of school, academics. That's part of it. But, and there's just other reasons. Just top players are not going to go to Northwestern. They compete, but here we go again. The last 7 games, all in the in the Big Ten, 1-6 straight up and against the spread, trending downward yet again. And that's not new, because the last 2 years, Northwestern is 2-12 against the spread in the month of January. You have that, that's a problem. Now, in their last game, they just gave up 80 points to Purdue. When they give up 80, 1-8 in their next game for the Wildcats. And then you got Michigan, or should I say, as Reese David would say, Michigan. Okay. They're 10-1 against the spread, Ross, after allowing 30 points or less in the first half of their last 2 games. So I think here, Michigan by double digits. So I'll take the Wolverines minus the 7.5 as we do this video to move on and win it, make it 3 straight.
Yeah, Michigan not living up to expectations to this point of the season, although like Doug just touched upon, they've won their last 2 and they've looked good in doing so against some pretty good competition. So yeah, he's going to take the Michigan Wolverines. I think they're -7, Doug, against
it's either, I saw 7.5, but it could be 7 now.
Okay,
yes.
7 or 7.5, whatever that may be. Now, remember, folks, we're taping 24 hours in advance, so these lines are subject to change depending on when you view the video. So we are going to grade our plays on the line that we have at the time of recording, but by the same token, just don't, so you're not viewing it tomorrow, which would be the day of the game, and say, what are these guys talking about on the lines? We're getting the opening lines within the last hour for the following day. Anyway, Big 12 matchup, Doug. Iowa State at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is a 2.5-point favorite. Doug, I look for traps. I love seeing games. I think the general public will get sucked in. This is definitely one that I've identified right off the bat. You got a number 24 team in the country, and Iowa State that's 14-5, and they're an underdog against a 10-8 Oklahoma State team who's also lost 4 games at home this season already. And Oklahoma State is the favorite in this contest. And, you look at Iowa State, they really feasted off a pretty soft non-conference schedule. I believe they did beat Xavier, the lone ranked team they beat in their non-conference portion of the schedule. But having said that, since Big 12 action has started, it's been another story. They're 2-5 in conference, and they've lost 4 of their last 5 games. Iowa State has been a very good team defensively for the better part of the year, but not so much since Big 12 play started. As a matter of fact, Doug, over their last 5 games, opponents are shooting 48% from the field against them. So when you struggle to score like Iowa State does at times this year, as a matter of fact, over their last 5 games, I think they're averaging like 62 points per game and shooting less than 40%. And Oklahoma State also struggles offensively, but they play really good defense. And this is a team that's 3-4 in conference play, meaning the Cowboys, but their 3 wins, they've come up big when the lights have been the brightest, as they've knocked off good teams in Texas, Baylor, and TCU. And those 3 teams have combined to go 44-10 this year. So this is a team totally capable of taking on a ranked team at home and pulling off an upset. It's not even an upset in this situation because they're a 2.5-point favorite. Here's what I would recommend, folks. I have an inkling that Iowa State's going to catch some money later tonight and into the morning because they're the ranked team. How are they an underdog against a team that's 10-8, 3-4 in conference play, and lost 4 home games already? So by the time you see this video, it may go down below 2, and it may be somewhere around 1.5, 2, maybe even 1. I would look at the money line in that particular instance if that occurs. And if you can get -135 or less, I would take Oklahoma State on the money line. If not, I'm totally comfortable with laying a 2.5 with Oklahoma State against Iowa State. So Doug Upstone, he likes the Michigan Wolverines -7 over Northwestern. Ross Benjamin, I'm on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, laid a 2.5 over number 24 Iowa State. Remember, folks, we're 6-0 on our college basketball free picks with the last 3 videos. So Let's make it 8-0. And Doug, before we go, tell the folks where they could find you, how you've been doing it late and what you got going on.
Well, what I got going on, Ross, the things have been going very well. In 2022, in all sports, in terms of profit based on units, I'm up almost $5,700. That includes everything. Okay. So what does that mean? So now I had I'll admit I had a tough Saturday this past week, but before that I was on a 21-9 run in college basketball. So I'm looking just to, you know what, dust myself off a little bit, pick up the pieces and ready to go for the rest of the week here in college basketball. NBA 4-0 run, okay, currently right now. So starting to get some good action there. And in the NHL, 11-2 right now, okay, on a hot streak in the NHL. So looking to continue with that one. So a lot of good things. We'll talk about the NFL, on Thursday when we cover that. But just across the board, good stuff. And now, Ross, you asked me to talk about this briefly because it's available tomorrow at Doc Sports at the Doug Upstone page. Golf. I've won each of the last 2 weeks. Okay. Had some nice winners. So here we go. Okay. Things are starting to pop in golf. Got a weird tournament this week in terms of the timing. It's the Farmers Insurance Open, which is in San Diego, played on 2 golf courses. And it's Wednesday through Saturday. Because, of course, as you know, in the prior, this would be the off week for the Super Bowl. Okay. Yeah. Well, now, because we're a week longer, they decided to move the tournament to Wednesday to Saturday to avoid the NFL championship games on Sunday.
Yeah, good idea. From a marketing standpoint and from a viewership standpoint. Anyway, that's Doug Upstone. You can find his picks at docsports.com. Folks, $5,700 he's up in net profits so far. And we're just at the 25th of January today. So that's in the first 24 days of the year. So as you can imagine, he's in store for a big year. And that's nothing new with Doug Upstone. That's docsports.com, where you'll find a lot of great handicappers. 50 years in business this year, and longevity speaks volumes in this industry. You can find me at rbwins.com. My college basketball 10-star top plays, folks, 86 and 59 with my last 145. That's 59%. And dime players over that course of time on those plays are up $21,400. My NFL 10-star top plays been on a nice run throughout the latter half of the year. They've gone 8-3 with my last 11, 10-4 with my last 14. And again, folks, my 10-star top plays are equivalent of what Doug might term a 6-unit or a 7-unit best bet. Somebody else might term it as just their best bet. So I call them 10-star top plays. My other plays are 5-star. I always recommend go 50% more on my 10-star plays. And the majority of selections you're going to get from me are 5 stars. So make sure you don't miss any of those 10-star plays. Not that the 5-star ain't good, but I'm rattling off some numbers here, folks, that you'll be awful foolish not to invest a little to make a lot. Until the next time, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we like to wish each and every one of you a very good day, and take care and God bless.